Miss Universe podcast.
Where do we go from here? Where do we go from here?
Miss Universe podcast.
Where do we go from here? Where do we go from here?
Miss Universe podcast.
Hello and welcome to Emma's podcast. It is Friday. Woohoo! Woot, 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 woot. What can I say? I'm recording mine back to back to back to back. And I still have 3 more to do this week because I am 1 week behind, I think. Something like that. I like to stay ahead of what's going on. So keeping a good strictures at some level. But you know, I'm recording on a Monday, by the way. So we're Friday, but I'm recording on a Monday, and it's been very interesting to see changes and seeing how we're, as an observer, seeing what's going on in this world. Seriously, I saw last year during the entire process and that infamous night where my house was burning as a crisp. I'm laughing because this is who I am, okay, people? I have been through extremely, how we say that, stressful situation to the point that this is my mechanism. There's people who will scream, cry, lose their crapola. I use sarcasm and a good laugh because there is nothing else I can do at that point. So for me, when I became the observer that night, and it's very interesting when you become the observer of circumstances you're in. Again, you got a choice. You can lose your shit. Sorry for the bad word. Not really sorry. But you can lose it for good. Or you become the observer and see the pieces of the puzzle getting together. Seeing people appearing. Seeing things shifting, moving in a way that is so interesting. I have seen things in the past like that, but become more and more an observer. It's really observing everything and not interrupting because, you know, in a case of circumstances that are not at the highest situation that we're in, we can be absolutely wondering what can we do for our own self or you know, you want to control the situation when you have to let it flow, let it go and let it flow. Not that easy. Now I'm talking the flow is the flow in the universe. It's not the negativity, it's not the outer condition. Is that beautiful golden light that you follow. And I have seen transformation. I have seen things changing, moving for reasons. Things ending a little earlier because there is a shift happening. So you have to have faith that everything is covered, not will, is covered. You got everything. You got food on the table. You got a job coming right here, right now, deliver at your feet. You have money, windfall of money. So those are the kind of things that sounds like, man, you went from cuckoo to la la land in less than a minute. Exactly. The more dilulu you got in your head, not saying to everybody, oh, I love you, blah, blah, blah. No, 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 no. Creating your stories in your head to be delulu, so you're impressing your subconscious. There is a lot of people who are thinking, we're in the matrix, we're doing this, we are like, I'm like, yeah, well, okay, well, good for you if you wanted to call it the matrix. Me, I'm calling it, and I always called it, is the biggest chessboard. We are here on that huge chessboard that is our lives. But the most interesting part is when you are an observer, you can see the moves on that chessboard, surprisingly. And a lot of people don't realize that. It's like, what are you talking about? Yes, you do see the move on that chessboard that is our lives. It is beautiful, it is interesting, it is crazy, it is insanity. But you can see those moves and understand that we are not alone here. There is a bigger force that helps us, which is very good. But it is quite stressful when you are in the middle of these circumstances that makes us wondering if we have enough to do what we're supposed to do. Having the faith, having the magic that comes with all of it. And it takes time. It's very scary, but it takes time. But the observer then we are, and I'm looking at what has been happening for the past several weeks, even month, and see how the people react. It's been amazing. See the rising, the wake up that people have. As I said in the past, they were more like, I don't want to use the word lamb, but basically this. When circumstances like hurricanes and tragedy happens, that people would just say, well, you know, you got FEMA going over there, you got the Red Cross, you got this going over there, and nobody moves. You got one person who did something actually. That was what is his name? I forgot his name. He was married. Brad Pitt, who tried to do, or he did some actually, housing, wanted to go and rebuild for Louisiana and stuff like that. So he did some of the stuff. Unfortunately, a lot of people were left behind, and it's still a war zone because nothing had got cleaned up. They didn't have the money, and they're living in a worse precarity than they were before, which is not good. But what happened after the hurricane, after Helene, the Hurricane Helene, not Helene, but Helene, showed up, you saw the people coming together. You saw the people from the state around the affected one coming and helping. You had a rise of others who came and helped. Search and rescue, and you got people organizing stuff, and you got some of the churches that helps as well. It's amazing to see that, and that's what I call it, we the people, when they step up to the plate, you could see the failure of the Red Cross. Finally, that got the lights is on those guys, the spotlight is on those guys. FEMA, the failure of FEMA. My issue with dealing with governments, and that's governments across every freaking countries. It's the same way. I'm telling you right now, per experience, it's the same way. It's not only here, it's everywhere else. Bureaucracy. Making things like, and that was one thing that when I worked in a biomedical world and I built up their archives, I done that for one company. It was just like talking with somebody who was doing auditing. It was so funny. It's a no-brainer to do things. But it felt like, because they made it so complicated, even me reading the SOP, after the second sentence, I had no idea what they were talking about. I'm like, what on earth is this? You do not go put gold into Fort Knox, all right? You're not going into that reserve over there at all. So why make it more complicated? FEMA need to be whipped out, cleaned off the rail. There is nothing we can do with those guys right now. It needs to be totally removed. And it needs to be restrictors in a way that when tragedy happen like that, people should know what they're supposed to do. One of the biggest issues, and that's why people that went on site over there, because they subcontract on the top of it, there were a lot of frustration from the subcontractors because they had no idea, no direction, and they tried to help the people actually. Some of the contractors went over there, tried to help them with that ridiculous $750 loan, which is appalling to me. Especially like, for one person, I'm like, okay, do you think that $750 going to help when you got hotel and motel not far from over there who double their pricing? You got gas station who got supplies that was given away and a salad $20. How ridiculous is that? So do you have people who made some good money off the back of a lot of people? That's the problem too. You are the people who do the lootering, stealing. That's why you got more security over there, because you got people who have no conscience who will go over there pretending to be part of the community and steal, which is quite deplorable. And I have experienced that firsthand as well. When you're not only down, but that's adding insult to injury. And trust me, you feel violated because you lost everything. And when people come and do the lootering, it's even worse. But back to FEMA. They need to restructure this. This became a ridiculous machine that doesn't function. In a case of, first of all, money that should have been put away, trillions of dollars, for hurricanes, for disaster this way, it shouldn't be and should never be rerouted to others. And again, remember, FEMA is part of the government. So who is at the head of the government directing that money? That's not FEMA. FEMA receive orders and they're following it. There is no safe gate in there. It's like Social Security. And that happened to every freaking country. There is a hole in every country, because when I came from Europe, there was a hole in social Security. Yep, already at that time, and that was over 3 decades ago. And I'm like, how you can have a hole over there? Well, they're using the money for Social Security to buy arms for the military or others. So the money that's supposed to go for people to retire is gone like the wind. It's the same thing here. There should be a safeguard, safe gate. Nobody should be using that money. But guess what? The government decides, so today we're going to take the money, the millions and the trillions of dollars, and redo something else different. I always said, and I don't do politics, and I don't care which side you're sitting on, you should help your people first. Because if you don't help your people, how can you help the rest of the world? FEMA should be whipped out from the bone, gather it, like they did with the houses. You are full of mud. Imagine FEMA being full of mud and you gather it. You remove everybody, all of the top dogs, and the little dogs, and any dogs, and you restructure it in a way that is more functional. The bureaucracy needs to be leaned. The people they should be more boots on the ground than people sitting their ass in an office, by the way. You should not be hiring subcontractors. You should have your people as a boots on the ground. FEMA should be in every state on standby, making sure they have the right resources, making sure they're working with the right groups, and I'm not talking the Red Cross, to rescue and not playing like we're in, state of emergency and we're gonna not allow people to do their job. There were people and pilots that were threatened to have it going to jail, remove their licenses because they tried to save and still continue to do it. And we're in November, try to save people and help. You don't do that, but that's what happened. There should be a better communication with the state and the direction they should take. It was a total failure, which is a good thing in one way. I remember when we built the archives many years ago, and many years ago, it's like, which we are over, way past 10 years. It was like 15 years ago. I'm not there anymore. I don't work for that company anymore. But when we built it up, when we took it over, not even build it up, we purposely made it fail. We failed epically that audit. It was so bad, and that pissed me off in one way because I don't like to fail things like that, but we had to do it in order to change it. And we changed it, and I passed every freaking audit. At the end, they were like with me for 5 minutes because it was so bullet freaking proof, which was good because they shouldn't spend their time looking at archives. They should be looking at other things they're supposed to go before they go to the archives. And I had complaints from people. They said, well, they're looking at a project closely. And I'm like, well, that's supposed to be their freaking job. So yes, they're going to go and nitpick you what you're doing because that's what's supposed to happen. So back to FEMA. This is an epic failure of FEMA. Now the concern is the strictures. How do you restructure this to make it lean? Because procedure for procedure, at the end of the day, the person or the subcontractor that is forced to go over there, face the people in need, feel angry and disappointed and defeated because they were subcontractors, they were helping because they had the heart to go there and say, we want to help you to get the money. Every family that went and passed through him submitted denial. Isn't it horrible? So that would have been number one, FEMA. Number two, my favorite charity of all time, the one I grew up with, the one who I had my CPR and I passed, before I passed the government one, I went with those guys, Red Cross. That Red Cross should be canceled. Unfortunately, this is a charity organization. They do whatever they want to do with the money, actually. So the money that was given to them for Helene, it's gone somewhere else. And their excuse, because they didn't make their quota, oh, we're pulling ourselves out because, the school opened. Are you freaking kidding me? No, you are pissed off because now we the people have stepped in to find shelters for those family and individuals that need help. Where were you? I do know from reports, and that's not the first one because I had it on one of the posts and I posted the first post I did on my Facebook, I was extremely honest about it because I said who I will give money to and who I want. And over 5+ million people, I've seen it. Thanks for the people to read it and really take it seriously this time around. Because the first thing we think about everybody is how can we, help? The first thing you think of, and I don't anymore, is the Red Cross. And I won't, because I refuse to give them a penny. And I grew up with those guys. I had a deep admiration and respect for the Red Cross, the old Red Cross, not what's going on right here, right now. That to me was the biggest disappointment ever, the Red Cross. They basically blew it for me. And again, I am going to speak about this because it really hit me very hard. Thinking about what are those people have suffered. And per experience from last year, I got that guy showing up at 4 o'clock in the morning. Really? We were there past 4 o'clock in the morning, half asleep. And I'm like, well, there was no other disaster on the block, but that's all right. We don't want to bother you. Taking names. So they look better. I'm taking a name. Okay, well, that's good for you if you're taking the name, but is it gonna do something for me? No. And they lied on TV. Oh yeah, we got everybody, we take care of everybody. You did take care of nothing for me. And we were only 2 family out of the 8 that had to figure out what to do with the shelters. Okay? And I had Jerry, and Jerry is not part of the Red Cross. That's the difference. So when you're dealing with information that are not the best way, and you are hoping for the best, because that was what it was at the end of the day, hoping for the best. What can we do to help? What can I do to help? Then I put that post in, and I put the most reliable resources, and it included ANP Help, actually, which is a North Carolina effort where you have a list per counties. And that's somebody, you need to understand, this is not from the government. That is somebody who created that list. Okay? Those are boots on the ground who took the time to do this. However, I put one thing at the bottom was the charity will not give any penny. American Red Cross has failed to use the funds adequately and help people in the past hurricanes. And I had a list of it and links. not only talking about what happened to Sandy, what happened to, and those are, did the New York Times, and those are articles from news papers who have done the research. That's the worst part of it. Talking about Haiti, $500 million, and they only built 6 houses. Where is the money? I'm still asking, where is the freaking money? You're a charity. Where is your transparency? Again, you are claiming you gave 90% back. I don't believe it. Oh yeah, we do have now, what did he call it now? This is the lies. We have programs. Program is BS, all right? I have a program, so I'm spending $1 million on a program. Oh, really? And what does that program do to the people? Nothing. Why giving to the charity? I like World TT that removed their staff too as well, because I refuse to give to those guys. When I saw World TT had it, I'm like, really? You should have picked up another charity. They didn't make their quota. No, they didn't. And they should not make their quota at any given time because they lost their core, which the core was to help the people. They did not. So when you lie on TV, even for 8 families, and say, oh, we're taking care of them, no, you did not. Reaching out to you didn't work either. And now you're pulling out of North Carolina. I say, oh, we're not pulling out of the state, but the school opens. And what is the school has to do with shelters? Explain this to me. That baffles me. Lie after lie after lie. They're pulling out because they are all crying like a bunch of big babies, because instead of be the big dog about there and make money and take the money away from people, they got finally karma in their little rear end on this one, because I would rather give anything to Dustin Coke and other like Operation Hello, who are actually doing what they're saying. And they don't make any freaking money out of it. They are all freaking volunteers. Do you imagine this for a minute? Yeah. The 4 Horsemen, same thing. They are doing this to help. The miners, the boys, the West Virginia boys came with their own equipment. The Amish community, they came, load up 56 a bus, 56 people coming in and helping at no cost. The Amish community. Come on, people. So when I'm listening to some of the BS I'm listening to, and I am, as I said, I grew up with the Red Cross. The Red Cross was my idol. I always saw them in a time of hurricanes, disaster, with their dogs, rescuing and helping and pulling. Guess what? Those are private individuals with their dogs who are going into Carolinas. It is quite disappointing. So there is a situation here where being an observer, seeing people rising, people who, I know some of them, some will never know because they don't want to be known. And you got the residents who are doing their best as well. The community came together, had nothing to do with any political parties. The failure of FEMA is epic. Something needs to be done. And I don't want to waste more millions of dollars on stupid hearings from Congress, because that's BS. Like the attempted assassination of President Trump. What a joke with the FBI. I'm sorry to say it, but that's just a parade. We know that person that person was an scapegoat. Okay, get rid of it, but stop talking and have the Congress talking for hours and hours, because who gives a crap? I'm going to be honest with you. I'm so over it. FEMA, I know, respond to, and they're going to do a parade on that BS later on. We should not waste our time on millions of dollars on this BS. Seriously. Get rid of FEMA, rebuild it properly. Need help? Let me know, because I'm very good on that. That's part of what I do. But seriously, we need people in FEMA and everywhere else that when something happened, first of all, the funds should have never been reallocated. So you know what? We know it wasn't FEMA, it came above their head. And that should be handled. And say who really authorized this. Because that wasn't the director of FEMA, I can guarantee that. But there should be accountability. We should be accountable. When we ask for people to be accountable, I'm accountable for my freaking actions, then I like it or not. Everybody should, including the government. So yeah, while number one, we do take care of FEMA, and instead of trying to ignore it or having a show in Congress, which would be a waste of freaking time, there need to be a structure and restructure that should be happen immediately. So the boots on the ground, the people in FEMA should be the freaking boots on the ground and should know what they're supposed to do and how to do it and not feeling lost in the middle of a shit show. And for the contractors who are trying to help, the same thing, because those guys were very frustrated when they tried to help the people. So I'm not throwing FEMA under the bus, but their structure totally freaking suck. And it's about time we do something about it. Not by somebody who wants to be famous, but by people who know how to fix this very quickly and restructure it in a way that it works. 2, money should not be touched. If it's for a disaster like hurricanes, that money should have never been taken away to plug another hole somewhere else. That is unacceptable because those people have suffered enough. But what will happen if there is another hurricane and we don't have the money? That's the other problem too. So think about this one. In regard of the Red Cross, all of those organizations like that should be canceled, meaning we should not be giving them any money. Because if you're only there to replenish your fundings, you should be ashamed of yourself. There is a lot of frustration coming from the workers at the Red Cross who have been frustrated for lack of direction, lack of support. That organization should be split. But again, that's not my organization. This is a private organization who has a lot of claws around the world. And I am so disappointed of those guys that I will never give them any penny. At all. I do not trust the Red Cross. So, charitable organization, put your words where your mouth is and start to talk the talk and walk the walk. And when we said, again, and that's why we have to be cautious, because that's another big thing, people. When you give to charity, the organization decide at their own discretion how much they want to give back to the community. They don't have to give everything back to the community. And that's what has been happening with the Red Cross and other organizations that should not have a penny from anyone. Because when you give with your trust and your heart, you're expecting those people to have that. And when we, the people, doing it directly between we, the people, and can do it, what does it tell you? Do we really need those organizations? Seriously? That should be a warning as well. So I am glad in one way that the situation that I've seen with Hurricane Helene has really highlighted the situation of what are those charity doing and what is the government, what is the failure of the government. It's not blaming, we know the guy at the head of FEMA is done. Is going to be sacked because they're going to blame him when in fact it's not him. It's the people above him. That's the problem. Restructuration and helping. That's what it is. So I'm glad this happened in one way, but what is beautiful to see is the people stepping in. And we get more things done with the people than we did with the government, which is quite not surprising. So all my love, guys, and we'll talk to you later. Bye now.
Where do we go from here?
Amorous Universe Podcast.
Where do we go from here? Where do we go from here? Where do we go from here?
Podcast. Universe Podcast.
Studio